And in the meantime, we'll turn it over to Scott Reinhardt, the Victor Hiking Trails Trail Master.
Good evening.
Evening.
I really appreciate you having us in, and going to give you a little bit of a background and then sort of trace back where I'm coming from, so I'm going to ask your patience. I used to do a lot of this, and I don't do it anymore, and so what used to come naturally, I had to work at to try to make sure it all makes sense. So, again, my name's Scott Reinhardt. I've been in Victor for 5 years, and previous to being in Victor, I worked for 37 years as a teacher, a coach, and a principal. That's why I said I used to do a lot of this. And I was lucky enough to be in an award-winning, nationally recognized middle school, and I was in an award-winning, nationally recognized district. And because of the award-winning part, I got to travel a lot. I got to visit other school districts, many of them, and I became sort of a judge and an advisor, because many schools applied for awards, and I would be one of the people that would come in and visit the schools, meet with the people, and measure how they did. But part of that process was also giving advice and measuring their quality. So I kind of became an expert on quality organizations. So that's what I did for 37 years. And then I retired, and we built, my wife and I, Sherry, we built a house over on Dreyer Road. We love it here. It is, we live in our little paradise on Dreyer Road, and just think you guys do a great job. And I want to preface everything I say. Victor Hiking Trails is here. We're here to help. We hope we're going to offer something to you that can help you guys make the town a better town. I was once the leader of a school, and I know I needed all the help I could get. And leaders sometimes are expected to be able to do everything and have their foot in the present, their foot in the future, and do everything. It has become an impossible job. And that's why probably a lot of people don't want to be leaders. But we're here to help, and we think we can do that. So a couple of years ago, I decided I wanted to work with the community or do some service in the community, and started asking around what would be a great organization to work with. And Lisa Roberts, who is here, there's Lisa right there. Lisa, who seems like everything great that happens in Victor, you have your hand in it. So she is an outstanding volunteer and what makes a great contributor to the community. And she told me about Victor Hiking Trails, which is heading up to our 30th anniversary this September. So I became a member of the board of Victor Hiking Trails. As Jack said, I'm the trail master, which I had no idea what a trail master was. It sounded like the newest Marvel superhero.
The fine print. It was in the fine print.
And Dave's the president, but Chauncey is the trail boss. So you know, we sound like a WWE tag team. And Jeff Hennick is you're the webmaster. I tell you, he does an outstanding job with technology. I'm very impressed. So I became involved in that, and my primary role as trail master was to convince people to let us put a trail on their property. And it's an interesting process because trails are a community trail, but also people have people have rights according to their property. And I'm going to tell you, my experience so far in doing that has been very, very positive. You know, for property owners, when I contact property owners, they've been nothing but gracious, whether they're involved, like saying, yes, I want to do it, or no, I'm going to respectfully decline. It's been very positive experience. The one issue I've had really has been with developers. When I contact developers, oftentimes I don't hear back from them. And so I can be very persistent, so I'll stay on it. And when I hear back from developers, the issue becomes, well, they're not really interested in community trails. They're not interested in including those trails in their development plans. And you know what? I get it. Developers aren't going to be here 20, 30 years. They're not living here. Some do, but most of them don't. Their job is to develop a neighborhood and then sell houses, and then they move on to the next project. In one conversation I had with one developer, he said, you're going to have to talk to the HOA about it. So in talking to the HOA, that could be a couple years down the road. The houses are built, the people are there. And we've been doing that. We've been talking to HOAs. But it's like if you build a house, you know, and we built our house on Dry Road, I've built houses before. I made decisions about that house knowing that I didn't say to myself, I'm going to add this later on. Because that's always a killer, because when you go to add it later on, whether it be a bay window or something, it's 10 times more expensive. It's a lot harder to do. So you do it when you're building. So adding trails after development goes in becomes very problematic, because then you're kind of like trying to force it in. So I became frustrated with that part of it and the aspect of the future of what the trails are going to be. And Dave advised me to look at the master plans. And so I started researching master plans online, and I found a Victor comprehensive plan, and I found a Parks and Rec master plan. Well written, very lengthy. I give credit to anybody who's read the whole thing, but they're very well written. They're visionary. One of the things I would do when I look at other schools was how visionary were their schools? How far ahead do they think, and do they plan, and what do they see? So I was very impressed with these plans. And I'm not going to read you things from the plan, but I do want to quote a couple things, or at least give some insight on what's on those plans. And as I said, they're visionary, they're insightful. There's a lot of references to walkable community. Walkable communities. And walkable, when we talk about trails a lot, we're also talking about sidewalks. You know, sidewalks are an important part. Even the size of the sidewalk. I'm learning stuff from these guys all the time. But the size of a sidewalk makes a difference. Can you ride a bike and have people walking on it? So those are little considerations that sometimes after it's built by a developer, it becomes too late after it's built. Here's a quote from the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. There is a significant need to connect parks and neighborhoods with walking, biking paths and/or sidewalks. There was a lot about connecting trails. This is what really kind of, I was very impressed with this. There is, in the master plan, there is a written part about connectivity. All the trails in Victor, in the community of Victor, should be connected. You should be able to get anywhere you want to go without a car, by bicycle or by walking. There's supposed to be a trail within a mile of every place. Any spot in Victor should have a trail within a mile of it. That's pretty impressive. I also thought about, if that ever happened, the quality of life here, the inspirational part of life in Victor would take on its own identity. People would see us in a different way too. Imagine if you could say, like if you're a realtor and you want to sell a house, you know, in Victor you can walk anywhere you want to go. You can ride your bike. I even envisioned in the wintertime rolling those trails and having people cross-country ski. So that was, I was inspired by reading those plans. The problem is the more development, the less chance, the more difficult it is. Just like doing a house after you've built it, the more difficult it becomes to install those plans. So, we're not asking, Victor Hiking Trails is not asking that someone else make these goals and visions possible. What we're asking is, we want to be able to help make it possible. And specifically, what we're asking is that the town includes Victor Hiking Trails in the application approval process. That doesn't mean we decide anything. We're asking for an advisory role with the planning board in which if there was an application from a developer, that they would pass the application on to us, and then we could advise the planning board on what it should look like as far as the trail plan goes. We want to make sure that the goals in the comprehensive plan and the Parks and Recreation Master Plan become a reality. And will that happen in the next 5 years? Nope. 10 years, 20 years? I don't know. I don't know. But we currently have almost 70 miles of trails. The earlier we start, the better. We need to connect the trails. We need to add future trails, plans for future trails. We also need a trail master plan where we would have a big map of the town of Victor with all the existing trails, which we already have, but also quadrants where trails need to go. That doesn't mean you draw a trail on there. This just means there'd be a quadrant and a trail needs to be worked into that. So that's the visionary part of it. So one final thought, and I had to give some thought to this. I did a lot of speeches for teachers and I did a lot of speeches for teams that I coached. And I was trying to think of something that could draw some parallels, because the trails might not seem like a big deal right now, but probably back in 1900, when every 3 people there were horses. There was 1 horse for every 3 people in 1900. Probably when everybody had stables and there was a blacksmith on every corner, and there were dirt roads, and there was somebody standing out there, a blacksmith standing out and watching the horseless carriage go bumping down the road, probably said, that'll never work. That's ridiculous. But a scant 60 years later, there was 1 horse for every 60 people. And there were streets, paved streets, there were super highways, there were garages and driveways, and everybody had a car. All of a sudden, everything was different. And I'm an old guy, so 60 years doesn't seem like a long time to me. But if you look at the trends, and you look at the data, you can just see it in town. How many people do you see on bicycles? We've had an explosion of hikers. This is happening everywhere. This is the future. It would be great if the vision comes out, if we get that vision and we are prepared for it. Whether, like I said, it's a long-term vision, whether we can create a network of trails and be ready to face that future. And that's all I got. So there's a sheet with a proposal regarding integrating Victor Hiking Trails as an advisor to the planning board that could be passed out. And did I introduce Adam's here from Parks and Recreation? Where's Ryan? Oh, Brian Emelson's here too. So, any questions?
Well, actually, Scott, thank you. I had met with, previously with, Brian and I met with Scott and David and Chauncey and Lisa. Am I forgetting anyone else? I don't know if Adam was there as well, but, and I have spoken to Kim Kinsella, and certainly Kim was on board, feeling that certainly makes a lot of sense as far as having this being part of the planning process and an overview or comments added by the Victor Hiking Trails. I guess if we look at the entire pandemic and we try to find silver linings, the fact that so many residents and people in general are looking for outdoors, and they found our trails. Many of them had never experienced them. They experienced them in the last 16 months, and they want to continue to experience them. So what better way to do that than to continue to invest? And I think part of that investment goes to even to board members, a reminder to this past year when we hired Adam to be that arm from the town to assisting the Victor Hiking Trails in their growth as well. So I'm a supporter of this, though I probably should read it before I say it out loud. I'm supporting it.
And just so I want to add, as I mentioned earlier, I used to have to be a judge for school districts and advise them. This group, and I've been in a part of it now for a year and a half, but I have to tell you, as even when I first met, the reason why I joined this group is because this is a quality organization. This is an asset to the community. Their meetings are unbelievable. They are a level of expertise and dedication and bright people. We have the mechanisms in place to make this vision happen. We have the people here to do that. So just want to salute my fellow members and to say this is, and it's just, it's an honor to be part of this group.
And what I need to check on is whether or not this is adding the advisory role of this Victor Hiking Trails, if the design standards, if any, has any impact on that. You know, just something that we need to add as far as a step. So, board members, any comments like to make to Scott or the members of the Victor Hiking Trails?
Mr. Reinhardt, I know that, actually, this is great, because every time I've been with you before, it's been for corrective action or discipline, so that's nice.
Oh, you were one of those students, huh?
Yeah. So, no, I think it's wonderful. And I know with the other side of my career with the fire department, we see these come to the fire department for notes that we can send back that go to the planning board, and certainly there's nothing ever that could come of that would be bad, only positive. So, and oftentimes I know from the fire service side, we can recommend the hydrant makes more sense to have it here or there, and some of that stuff, like you're saying, the infrastructure would be so much more costly to repair afterwards. So I know that we enjoy seeing that there, and it makes total sense to me for you guys to see that as well. So I would totally support that.
Thank you. Did you go to Calkins Road?
No,
Pittsford Middle School.
Barker Road, yeah.
All right. So you know the difference, do you ever see Calkins Road Middle School?
Yes.
So you see the difference between, when I first got to Pittsford, it was like, this is Pittsford, because the buildings were all fairly, the facilities in Victor blow away Pittsford facilities. But then you go to Calkins Road Middle School, and it's a different facility. And that's part of bringing a vision to something and saying, we want to see something special like that. And that's what makes a community, too.
So, it was designed to the layout of the community over
Yeah,
there.
it looks like a farm, yeah.
And I do have in my possession the Victor Hiking Trail Pathfinder, certainly great reading material, and also identifying new trails coming soon, and the discussion regarding the Village on the Park, working with the landowner Paul Bishop there.
Yep.
As well. So, well, it sounds like round of support here from the board members, and again, nothing that impacts you, just checking with internally whether or not this is a step that needs to be added to our design standards. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Yes,
One comment I'd like to make, not only.
Chauncey, why don't you come up and,
Chauncey Young, Old Dutch Road, Victor, New York. I guess I'm supposed to say that when I walk up here. One comment I'd like to make, I'm on the bike hike committee that's trying to make Victor and our area a destination for hiking and biking. And I just wanted to make a comment that hiking and biking brings people into the community in addition to adding to the quality of life here. It's a huge portion of our quality of life, having the trails, and our Parks and Rec department that does such a great job on the parks and everything. And that's all I want to say is hiking and biking brings business. That's another positive aspect of the trails.
well, thank you very much, and again, we certainly appreciate your working relationship with the Parks Department as well. I know Brian, big supporter of the trails, and certainly, and again, like I said, I think for us, from a town board standpoint, commitment in the hiring of Adam moving forward, and our commitment to trails development here in the town. So, okay, thank you. Take a recess. We'll start our regular meeting at 7.